Live streaming is on.
Hello, everybody. Let me check as always to see if we are online in YouTube. So you don't complain to me later and saying, you sucker, you didn't connect us, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I see we are connected.
Great.
Hello, how are you, Mark?
I'm okay this afternoon, evening your time, morning my time. How are things out there? Welcome to the apocalypse.
Welcome to the apocalypse. I was discussing, well, first of all, guys, you knew he was coming, but let me introduce him properly because I just jumped to say hello to my friend. With us today is Mr. Mark Waid, editor, writer, legend to the stars, one of my oldest and dearest friends in this business. Here, well, I was discussing it with Howard and with Marv in past chats, and we're saying the apocalypse. This is a boring apocalypse.
Yeah.
We're always expecting flames, just expecting zombies. You're like, stay home.
Right. Every apocalypse we've ever heard about, thought about, seen in movies, it hasn't been a slow rollout. It's always been a meteor appears and the whole world knows there's a meteor coming. Not this time.
We didn't even have the earth open, an earthquake or anything like that. We're just stay home. If you go out, you die.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I can understand that. We stay home, especially here in Spain, in some parts of the US, but at the same time, like, tell me something that is more scary,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Olivia was telling me that, just like the day before, I think he lives in Lisbon in Portugal, Olivia Coipel. He was telling me that's the day before, they did the confinement in Portugal. He went out to the street, but everybody knew, the confinement was going for, so there was nobody on the street. And he had that primal fear that, you're so used to see people around.
Yes.
I just told him, that's the primal, the animal instinct.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
You're so used to society around you that the moment when you don't see anybody, you just fear, like, oh. And he said he ran home and never left since that day.
Did you ever see a Japanese movie called The Ring?
Yeah, of course.
The Japanese version?
Yeah, the good one. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the good one. Exactly. There's one of my favorite scenes in that is one of the scariest scenes, and it's just an empty street with her walking towards us. And it's not in America, it's no big deal. We don't understand why that's scary, but looking at it there, it's frightening because that level of, nobody around, that doesn't exist where she was. So it was very creepy. Yeah.
There's a Spanish movie that is called Open Your Eyes by Alejandro Amenábar that then they did an American version with Tom Cruise that was called Vanilla Sky.
Yeah.
There's a scene, Gran Via is like the biggest street in Madrid, the most important.
Right.
Like, there's a scene when you have the main guy, the leading actor, alone in Gran Via. And for us, it's just like having the main, having Times Square with no people.
Right.
That would be the equivalent for us.
Yes.
And that's the feeling, that's the feeling. You see yourself around, you see nobody in one of those clogged European streets. And you're like, I don't want to be here.
No, it's very creepy. Yes.
So what have you been doing during these days? I know we're people who's used to work at home, so for us this doesn't drive us that crazy. But what have you been doing? In terms of.
Okay, I mean, actually, as a board certified hermit, my lifestyle has changed about 5%. So, I've gone through long periods of my life where my most meaningful relationship was with my Federal Express guy. So I'm used to being at home. It is different now that I'm publisher of Humanoids. I took that job, and now suddenly I'm responsible for a staff of 8 or 9, and it's much different. It's kind of fun watching them try to work from home because they're not used to it, and they don't understand that the downside to working at home. I always thought the upside to working at home was that I could pick my own hours, and I could, it just didn't have to be adhere to a clock or anything, and I had freedom that way. And the reality is, my doctor told me at one point, it's the opposite, Mark. It's that if you're working at home and therefore you're working 24 hours a day, there is no freedom. You're fooling yourself because you're constantly at work, and so there's no door to close at 5 o'clock and say, okay, I'm done for the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so my staffers are finding that out, and they're freaking out a little bit. But
they're not used to our. It's 8. I don't care. Go. Yeah. Okay, work. Then, what Paloma is having that. Paloma is used to work in ECC and the publisher in the company, the hours of the day. But now she's working home, So she's seeing my reality, and she's like, "Oh, I gotta send an email. I gotta do that." Like, honey, it's 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah.
you know, she's so used to I'm in the office, I work. Now she has it here, so she's working literally, except for the time with the kid, she's working at all hours.
Yeah.
But because that becomes your reality.
Yes. So, comics. how is the industry faring over there? How is the retail landscape there?
It's looking, I could say, it's not exactly as in the US, because I guess there's some states that are still open in terms of comic stores. Here, everything is closed, or at least it was closed until this week when I said, phase 0 started. All the stores were closed, so the situation was really, really, really bad, of course, because they couldn't open, they couldn't get material out, except for some ones, could get selling stuff online. But even with that, they couldn't send new stuff because all publishers stopped.
Right.
Literally. So there was no new comics, so they have to sell online all comics, etc. Some of the publishers are doing initiatives like ECC, for example. All the March comics, I think, that they couldn't publish, March or April, I'm not sure, they put them online for free.
Right.
So people could read everything they were going to buy. They just gave it as a gift. Then when the stores open again, they will take those digital comics out and print them for the stores to sell them. So it's just
that's interesting. That's it. So they're taking them offline the moment the stores open back up. That's really nobody here has even thought about that.
I've had this conversation, with some of the guys there, and I even released a manifesto for myself about the distribution thing. And not you, because I know you and I think alike, but many others are just, we've always done things this way. That's the way we do things. That's the way we'll always do things. And every time I hear that, like, that manifesto is going to send you about how to change the distribution. The way we do it here, I'm keeping it. And because I know you're not going to care. But I've been saying for years, and this, why do we need the middleman?
Right, exactly. Yes.
And the moment you mention that, they freak out.
But you don't. I mean, that's the more and more we get into the 21st century, the more it's apparent that fans, consumers, they understand the merit of going directly to the creator because they know they're supporting a creator directly. When you've got a middleman, it's not quite the same. I mean, in terms of music, most fans would rather give their money directly to the musician than give it to Sony or whatever, and then knowing the musician gets a tiny part of it. That's that's
a part of it where there's ECC, for example, or Norma, another companies in Spain, they self-distribute. I mean, they take care of the whole thing from beginning to end. So of course they don't have their own printers, but they work with a printer. But all distribution, etc., it's done in house. So, but there's also another company that's called the Spaceman Project. Maybe there's more, but what they do is they get Kickstarters, they create Kickstarters, but they take care of the logistics.
Right.
So it's like they are the guys who help the creators who want to do Kickstarters to have somebody to take care of the logistics, which is getting the comics to the public, etc., etc. So there is ways. My frustration is always the same. The thinking of we gotta stay the same all the time and not thinking of alternatives. And talking the other day with Lee Bermejo, we were talking about there is times as creators and publishers where you have a heel in front of you. Most of those times, and I talked to the other day too, which she's now not at DC anymore. He's seeing the other side too, I think. And it's like many times you have the machine, you cannot stop the machine. Machine has to go. So you have to stay. You see the hill, and you are like, I'm not gonna jump. I'm not gonna jump. But with Lee the other day, he was saying, this is exactly the right time. When I cannot stop myself from thinking the hill looks really attractive right now.
The way we attacked it at Humanoids was this. I mean, first off, Fabrice Geiger, who owns, sat us all down when it became apparent that we were going to have to start, moving people out of the offices. And to his credit, he said, "Look, we've got enough in the bank where we're not going to have to worry about this. We're not going to have to furlough employees. We're not going to have to tell creators to put their pencils down. But more importantly, we all decided that to try to take advantage of this as much as we can, because as you know, when you're working with a company, you're always playing catch up.
Yes.
You're always behind. You're always reactive because
Yeah.
there's never time to. But now that we have pushed our publishing slate one quarter away, and right now we finished playing catch up, and now we are in a phase where we are taking advantage of this time to think about, okay, what does the future look like? What can we do? What are the wildest, craziest ideas that we can come up with, and then figure out it's like a Humanoids 2.0 for America.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, if you're not doing that, then then the whole thing is really a waste. Then you may as well try to find some silver lining in this, and that's our silver lining.
Yeah, and what's your idea? I mean, for the future in terms of that humanoid. I know you cannot give details, but
Right.
as a publisher, what is for you the concept of what humanoids can mean to the readers or to the market in terms of what you want to publish? If you want to go ahead one step, you've been in this industry like forever, as I have.
Yes, yeah.
But we are not all, we're vintage. Okay, so
Right.
but what is the point of you are like you've seen it all as an editor, seen it as a writer. So now you're back in the publisher's chair.
Yeah.
You are like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what the work
yes.
is for me.
So I put it out to the staff. I mean, and let's not forget, again, I was a retailer too. I mean, I've done
yeah.
everything. I mean, with purpose, actually. When the chance to become a retailer came open, one of the reasons I did it was because it was the only thing in comics I had not done, and I wanted to have that experience. So the way I put it out to my staff was, we want to go back to the core principles of Humanoids, as I see it, is that it's transgressive material.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that it is the kind of material that other publishers will not publish or are afraid to publish. It is groundbreaking stuff, not only in technique but in subject matter. And transgressive becomes the word I cling to about what we do. So getting back to that, figuring out what the projects coming up are that we thought would be good ideas 6 months ago, but we look at them again, through these eyes and go, it's a good project, but this could be easily published by Image. This could easily be published by Dark Horse. That's great. We want to find the spaces where nobody else is in, right? That's where we want to be.
Yeah.
Because that's where you find your success. There's no point in being there's no point in being a second-rate Dark Horse or a second-rate Image. You have to be a first-rate Humanoids. So in terms of philosophy, that's the thing. The other thing I want to drill down on, and it's more ephemeral, and we're just in the beginning phases of trying to figure out this. But my challenge to the staff and to myself was, we've been trying as an industry for 30 or 40 years. We've been saying, how do we bring people to us? How do we bring people to our product? How do we bring people to the stores? How do we bring people into our medium? And we failed pretty miserably, consistently for 40 years. And I think the question is, how do we bring our material to the outside world? How do we bring our material to them?
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, digital is a way, although that seems to have plateaued some, and no one's quite cracked the next step as to what that's going to be. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I don't know what the answer is, but I think it's a question worth asking. I think it's a very important question because nobody else is asking that question.
Yeah, I think that's, if there ever was, which I don't think can happen, but if there ever was like a summit of publishers sitting down together, I could say, and I could be, I could get my fucking baseball bat,
Yeah.
Just put it on the table and say, you are not leaving here in a fucking month.
Right.
Will you get a solution to get to the outside world? That's the only thing. The other, you know about everything else. We have proven ourselves doing everything we can in this market.
Right.
So now the question is, how do we get to the outside?
So that's our approach. I mean, that's what we're concentrating on. And I expect us to have some good answers. We've got some good people working with us. We've got some good people working for us. And I think that we will, we're probably not going to be able to reinvent the wheel in 2 months, but we will be able to really rethink what we're doing and hopefully come out of this in a place where nobody else is.
Nice. And it's how much your work as a publisher, how much time is it taking for you to write?
it is a challenging balance. It is. I mean, luckily, right now at the moment, I've only got one regular assignment, which is Doctor Strange. So I've got a bunch of outside stuff. I've got a how to do comics book that's out there that we'll be doing at some point. There's another couple of projects that haven't been announced, but it's for me, it's a very small workload. So, and that was done with purpose, because I wanted to step into the publisher role. The arrangement was, okay, I'll take a day and a half a week to write, maybe 2 days a week to write. With the pandemic, it has become very much a back burner thing as I concentrate. It's become much more important for me to be present as a publisher every day. So it's challenging. I will get back to it at some point or another. It's not helped by the fact that Fabrice, is used to working 18 hours a day and writing, 18 hours a day. And this is not my world. I'm not, when I get to a weekend, I really want to have a weekend. So there's that. And then in terms of being, like I said, the rest of it is just, God, we do so many Zoom meetings. We do so many conferences. We do so much. Part of being a publisher is simply just checking in with people during the day, not to make them feel micromanaged and not to make them feel like they're being watched over, but just to sort of take their temperature, make sure that there's a camaraderie that exists. Keeping morale up in a situation like this is especially challenging, because when you're in an office, you just kind of get a sense of if this person is not doing well, or if this person is struggling with this or whatever. It just becomes, they can come talk to you by sticking their head in the door. This is much different. And so it's much harder to take people's temperatures during the day. When I started the publisher gig, I'd been consulting for about a year and a half. And when I stepped up to do the publisher job on March 1st, I said, in the most astounding act of hubris since Icarus flew toward the sun, I said to my staff these exact words. I said, listen, I know, this is a fairly new operation here in the US, but trust me, I've been doing this for 35 years. I have seen everything. I have done everything. There's no problem that we can't think our way out of, because I've seen everything. In fact, I said these exact words. In fact, I kind of look forward to you bringing me a problem I've never seen before. And then that day, the assistant editor announced she was moving to Chicago. And then the next day, we had tornadoes that took out a quarter of our backstock in a truck accident. And I thought, okay, these are two problems I've never seen before, but okay. And then the next week, this happened. So I regret my choice of words.
Well, it's Murphy's Law.
Yes,
you never know, and that's going to happen. And when did you start as? Stop with the word for now. What have you been doing lately in terms of what have you been watching in terms of TV shows, movies? Are you trying to keep up with newer stuff, or as in other cases, with Howard and Pacheco, we were discussing that for whatever reason we're going back to the movie classics.
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, there's so much new content out there. Oh my God! I mean, it becomes impossible to watch half of what you want to watch. But of the older stuff, older is a relative term. I've got my girlfriend invested in Better Call Saul, which when it's on, I think is the best show on television. So I've been watching it all along for the last 7 or 8 years. I've got her now caught up on it. So that we're doing. Everybody, of course, has watched Tiger King. Everybody in the world. I'm sure. Have you seen Tiger King? Everybody's seen Tiger King.
No.
You're the only person. You're the one. You're the one.
And I'm not. And I have no intention to. I watched the 5 minutes of the first episode, and I was like, nah, no interest. Guys, getting a spotlight. Nah.
My girlfriend is a documentarian, and so she's gotten me shifted into looking at those more closely and more frequently. We saw one the other night that was brilliant. It was called Finders Keepers. And I'm trying, how do I talk about it without giving too much away? All I can say is it's sort of rural America, and these two men are fighting over the possession of a human foot that one of them found in a storage locker. That's all I can tell you.
Okay.
And so the beauty of a good documentary is that it's like an onion, right? That as the story goes on, you peel more layers, and it becomes more and more astonishing.
Yes.
This is one of those. And I'm a big fan of those, because that's storytelling. That's real storytelling, is finding a way to take a story that is already in, all you're doing is documenting the story that's already in place, but you're finding a way to tell it.
Yes.
That is surprising, that is compelling, that it draws you in. That impresses me a lot, and I'm learning a lot from that. Yeah.
I got there's a lot of streaming services, of course, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I have one specific that almost nobody knows about, which is called Curiosity Stream.
Don't know it.
Which is only documentary.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay.
It's like $199 a month or something like that.
Totally worth it.
And you can watch it everywhere, in every, and I love it because you can even divide it in kind of documentary, science, history, human life, wild society. And the thing is that with that one is, I get so saturated with so much new stuff on TV that sometimes I just need to watch a good documentary, sit down, and learn to say.
Yeah, and take myself out of this world for a short period of time.
Exactly. Do you have a background for when you're writing, like a preferred kind of music that you're saying, for this kind of book I need to use this music?
I don't. I used to use soundtracks, and I don't know why I don't anymore. I just kind of fell out of the habit. I can't use any music with lyrics. I just can't, because it competes with the words in my brain.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But I meant that in terms of soundtracks, or not music with no lyrics, because as I was talking to the other guys, Olivier was telling me, if I do an epic group thing with Thor, I need, Lord of the Rings, or I need what was it? Last of the Mohicans, I need some, or Battle of the Duel of the Fates, I think it was the Star Wars one. I only need something to encompass my mood to the kind of scene I want to tell. And when I want to show emotion, I get the music out.
Yes.
Because the emotion has to come from me. I gotta try to emote myself into the characters, and that was so fascinating for me to see how the artists adapt their soundtrack. For example, Paloma needs silence to work, and I need the cacophony around me. So we cannot work together.
Right.
One is with the key, the other's working. So we all have our own space. That's her computer behind me. So no soundtrack.
You can't hear you for a sec. All of a sudden,
I got muted for a while.
There you are. Gotcha. Okay.
I'm gonna ask you 3 books you have written.
Okay.
If you have of them, seniors you have to. If you have to pick a soundtrack for 1, Kingdom Come.
Wow. Something grand, something John Williams-ish, I think.
Can be with lyrics too. It can be whatever band you can think of.
Well, that Jay-Z did a song called Kingdom Come based on the book, which was phenomenal. I mean, that I felt like, holy smokes, we really did give back to the general culture. We really did give to pop culture. I know for Flash, I wrote very often to the soundtrack to Silverado and Far and Away.
Nice.
They're ones that built. They're ones that, like the speed, sort of started slow, and then you just increase, build. And then with Captain America, I wrote most of Captain America to John Williams' score to 1941, which is a goofy movie, but a great soundtrack.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to ask Kingdom Come. For whatever reason, I've always thought about Kingdom Come listening to The Doors.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
For whatever reason.
Right. What's the connection in your head?
because for me the Doors were always sounding like how can I explain it? Sound like if you want to listen to the last music in your life,
Mhm.
something that tells you that not because they have a song is called "This Is the End," but
Right.
the end is coming. I always thought, if I was in front of an apocalypse and there were
Yeah.
music around me, I think that music would be the Doors.
I think that's fair. Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
So that's what I thought with that one. Then the second was I was going to ask you, and you cannot say John Williams,
Okay. I will promise. I
Superman,
promise.
Superman Birthright.
What did I write Superman Birthright to? I'm trying to remember back in the day. Um, gosh. Oh, I remember. I wanted to go for a science fiction feel, so I was listening to the soundtrack to the Outer Limits television show.
Nice. I didn't expect that.
Yes, I don't remember how I made that connection back in the day, but I remember distinctly going, oh, I've got the human part in my heart. It's the science fiction part that I really needed to
Yeah.
connect with, and that helped.
And then Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four. Wow. What would you listen to for Fantastic Four?
You first, and then I will tell you my crazy thought.
I lyrics or no lyrics, I think the proper background music to writing Fantastic Four is 1960s pop music, because that's, even though the characters can be made contemporary, they're so rooted in that decade.
Yes.
All their energy, all their relationships, that I think that would be my background music there. What about you?
Nah, 2001.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. I can see that.
2001. I can just think about them. Of course, it wouldn't work when you're talking about Ben, Johnny messing with Ben, or whatever family
Right.
relations. But when Fantastic Four go on a quest, because for
Sure.
me, for you, they are explorers above everything else. They're gonna quest. In my head, I can see Jack Kirby, and I can see
Yes.
2001 in his head, just going crazy.
But here's the thing. This is the difference between you and me in this. The stuff that I found over the years, I really kind of discovered that the stuff I like writing the most, the parts I like writing, the scenes I like writing the most, are the interpersonal scenes, are the small inner character scenes. I can write the big adventures, I can write the big exploratory things, but it's not quite as much fun to me. It doesn't come as easily. I like the smaller stuff. I remember, Brian Hitch and I did Justice League a million years ago for a little while, and it was the first time I ever had this relationship with an artist where, we respect each other, we like each other, we are big fans of each other's work. But he left after a few issues because he called me and he said, "I don't think we're a good match." He says, "I like doing the giant cosmic stuff, the huge, authority level, the big, giants. And Mark Waid, I'm at my best when I'm writing character moments, when I'm writing just quiet character moments." And he was right. We at that time, we didn't mesh together. And so rather than it being a war between us, he just said, "Look, I like your scripts. There's nothing wrong with your scripts. It's just not something I'm interested in drawing," which I respect completely. And so I think that's, I know that makes my work perhaps a little more quiet sometimes than Jason Aaron's or Donny Cates's, but I think that's what I do well. Keith Giffen gave me one of the best pieces of career advice I ever had, because I asked him, Keith's been around since the Stone Age. I said, he's been around since they were painting, paintings on cave walls. I said, "What's the secret?" He said, "Find the thing that you do better than anybody else and just make that really good, because there's times when it's in fashion, there's times when it's not in fashion, but when it's in fashion, people know to come to you." And I thought that was, and so Keith has obviously a very quirky, humorous style of working that's unlike anybody else's, and his stories are unlike anybody else's. So that's, again, when you need a Keith type story, you go to him. And I'm trying to sort of carve out that place where if you need a story about superheroes, kind of experiencing the superhuman condition, if you will, what it's like to be a superhero. What's your life like? How do you perceive the world around you? How do you use your powers in new and innovative ways? I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy you come to for that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that we all have, in my case, no, I don't, but everybody has its forte, and trying to be the guy you are not doesn't work well for you or for your readers. I think
No, not at all.
But if you thought about the most epic comic you've ever read,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think it would be?
That I've ever read.
Yeah, like
Epic,
like literally crazy epic.
That's a great question. I think, and I was looking at this the other day, back before the word graphic novels became a common term, Steve Ditko did what I would call a graphic novel. He did the last 17 or so Doctor Strange stories that he did were all one continuous narrative. It was all one 17-part story. And if you read it from start to finish, it is a novel. I mean, it's a graphic novel straight up, and it goes everywhere. And it's this wild, insane concepts where Doctor Strange is looking for the personification of all reality, and Mordru and Dormammu are chasing after him. It's a giant race, and it's just fascinating. I predict that most people watching this have not actually looked at that, or if they have, they've not looked at it for a long time. Go back and look at that. If you want to see like sweeping epic storytelling in 10-page installments with 9 panels a page, with even that constraining format that Steve used, it's still sweeping and it's still grand and epic, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got some questions.
Sure.
Not from the people who is trying to make this into whatever they want. I just said it on the chat, and I'm saying again, I'm going to ignore you.
Good. Please. Yes, please do. Yes.
This is a conversation among friends. See, if you guys want to be here, it's your problem, but don't waste our time.
Right.
So I was saying, question from Felipe Gonzalez.
Okay.
Do you think you still have more ideas to use on the Flash, or that you did tell everything you wanted to tell with the character?
I think I told everything I want to tell with the character, sadly. I think that even if I had new ideas, I've learned the hard way. It's dangerous to go go back to something you've already done.
Mm-hmm.
Because fans are not comparing it to what it was like before. Yeah. They're comparing it to their memory of what it was like before. And that's different. And so, I did come back to Flash for 6 issues back, I don't know, about 2007, 2008. And mostly as a favor to the editor than anything else. And I thought those were good issues, but man, I was alone. No one else in the world thought they were good issues. And I think a big part of it, the big complaint was, why isn't it like your old stuff? Why isn't it?
My guys were involved on those.
I remember.
And we loved it. That was amazing.
By the way, Acuna I would work with Daniel anywhere, anytime. He's
yes. And believe me, he would kill to work with you again. And I know he's reading this. So, why have you ever? I haven't. I gotta be honest, and I've told this to everybody, including Dan, and he didn't like to hear it. I've never had a connection with Barry. Never.
No.
For me, Flash is Wally. So I still think, people, if you don't agree, I'm sorry. I always thought the Flash is Wally West. So, do you think you could ever be able to write a story about the Flash, Barry, and feel as connected with Barry as a character as you did with Wally?
No, because I mean, Wally was very much my own alter ego. Wally was very much my voice. The secret to really writing a good character, a superhero or not, it doesn't matter, is finding the things that you share in common with that character, even if they're small things, and leaning on those, because that's your connection, that's your tether. And with Wally, there was a lot there in terms of his impatience, in terms of his sort of glib attitude, in terms of his voice, that made it a natural fit for me. And then as I worked with him, it became even more an extension of me. So I'll always have the connection with him. I like Barry. I read Barry growing up, but I can't connect with him the same way. The best Barry stories that I've read are the ones that I've enjoyed the most, the ones that are Barry in name, but really kind of Wally, like in the cartoon shows and so forth. Yeah.
So Log Frank Howard says, congratulations on your time in Captain America. I was fascinated by the revival you gave the title. So my question for that is, when you started doing Captain America, what was your reference? I mean, for if Carlos Pacheco was here, I know he automatically would say Steve Englehart.
Right.
So what was the Captain America you felt if you have a connection with him? I mean, as a writer, as a person.
Yeah.
Where did you go for that connection? You went to Stan and Jack, or Joe and Jack, better said. You went to Englehart, which is the model in a way, if you had any, for Steve Rogers and Captain America.
Englehart is always in the back of my mind. I mean, Englehart is one of my favorite writers growing up. He wrote my favorite Marvel story of all time, which is the Celestial Madonna stuff in Avengers.
Oh, yes.
And the way he brought an interesting level of emotion. See Steve, Englehart, Gerber, Starlin, those guys, they were the first generation of Marvel writers who weren't trying to write like Stan. Roy came along, and it did great work, but he's still working very much in the Stan mold. The other guys broke the mold, and that's what made them compelling to me as a reader growing up. So Steve was always in the back of my head. But honestly, my influence on the Cap stuff was a lot more Tom Clancy novels, a lot more, spy stuff, a lot more, of that sort of material. Because I knew I had the superhero stuff cold. I wanted to bring in influences from material I wasn't as familiar with.
The Totem Paco asks, have you ever read any Spanish comic book or book created by an Spaniard that is not superheroes?
I have not. So if whatever you got to recommend, send me an email afterwards. I'm interested.
There you go. So I'm going to continue to ask because I honestly cannot see the questions because people loving it. So what's your next goal as a writer? The thing that you think you want to do next? I'm not asking about books that are going to happen for Marvel or anybody else. Yeah. You've been in all parts. You've been in company owned. You've been in creator owned.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of genre that you say I don't think I've done enough of that? Like I want to do a horror story,
right?
Or sci-fi, or this is what I want to do next.
I don't know. I think that I've hit all the genres there are genres that I haven't done enough with, like mystery, crime stuff, but I don't think that stuff works as well in comics as some of the other stuff, the action adventure material that I tend to write. I mean, it can. Brubaker makes it work. There's so many people who make that stuff. Rucka makes it work, but it's difficult. I do think that the one thing I have up my sleeve that I have not played yet is biographical. That I've been in the business for 35 years. And as we said, I've done and seen everything. And so in the back of my mind, I still entertain the notion of doing either, a biocomic or sort of an unofficial, sort of a quasi biography, like fictionalized biography of not day by day, but more like, here's crazy stories that you don't know about comics. Here's some crazy behind the scene, and you probably have to, fictionalize it to some degree, but you wouldn't have to fictionalize it very much to make it fascinating. There's so much behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. I always tell the same joke when people ask me, like, if any of us who've been doing this for 25, 30, 35 years ever said at least only one thing of what we know from behind this, we'd be there. So you know what? let it until we're closer to die, and then maybe we'll talk.
Exactly.
When we see that door with the doors music sounding, we'll be like, okay, now I can start talking. Before, let me leave.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Todon Paco asks, what comic that is not superheroes are your favorite?
Right.
Ever and nowadays.
This sounds like I'm shilling for Humanoids, but I'm not, because I read this book before I was with Humanoids. There was a book a year and a half ago called Louisa. It's either Louisa Now and Then or Louisa Then and Now. I forget.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of magic realism. It's about a woman in her 30s who is trying to come to terms with her own sexuality, who one day opens the door to her apartment, and there her teenage self stands. And they're both trying to figure out how this happened and why this happened and how they're both in the same place at the same time. And then they sort of watching their relationship with each other and learning from each other. And then there's some stuff near the end where she's doing things with the format of comics that you can only do in comics. That's the best thing I've read in 5 years. I mean, full stop. That's the best thing I've read in 5 years.
Can you tell us the name of the creator?
I wish I could, but I am terrible with names. Unless you were a member of the Legion of Superheroes, I am terrible with names, and I apologize. But it is Luisa, Louisa.
I'm checking now. Luisa.
Please do.
And
Then and Now.
Yeah. Luisa Then and Now. Luisa Now and Then, in fact.
Now and Then.
Luisa Now and Then. Softcover trade. Humanoids. It's Mariko Tamaki.
Yeah, Mariko. That of course. I mean,
Carol Morel and Mariko Tamaki.
Yeah, my apologies.
I'm going to put
Please do.
The link on the group for people.
Please do.
They're going to ask.
Yeah.
There you go.
My apologies to the creative people. I am just.
No. We are in a situation we cannot accept that now. We cannot remember everything. If we cannot remember everything in regular life, now it's more difficult.
Okay.
So
I've got about 15 minutes left. Is that okay?
Is that okay? We are how much time? No, we're 49 minutes. So yes. We're fine. I said an hour. I know I promised.
And again, believe me, I could do this all day if I didn't have a meeting at 10 o'clock. I could do this all day.
It's fine. We can repeat this whenever you want.
Sure.
So, Pedro de Mercader asks, what appeals you from... Okay, let me he says in English, but let me rephrase it because it's I don't understand. What you think is the most appealing thing in a character as invincible, as perfect as Superman? Did you ever find it difficult to get him in trouble in difficult situations?
Nope. In fact, I found him easier than Batman. The thing I hear more and more, the thing I always hear about Superman is, I don't like him or I can't relate to him because he's invulnerable. Well, you know what? If you look at it, all comic book superheroes are invulnerable because none of them are ever going to, the big characters, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, they're never going to die. Yeah. They're never going to be seriously hurt. They're never going to be, they're never going to lose an arm for good. They're all invulnerable.
Yes.
It's more with Superman. It's more about the choices he has to make and thinking about if you had this power, if you had this ultimate power where you could do like a god, you could do anything. What are the choices you have to make on a day-to-day basis? How do you interact with the world around you? How do you go about your day without, and try to live a normal life or try to relate to your friends in a normal way when you've seen other galaxies, when you've, heard things that no one else and seen things that no one else on Earth can ever see. That's when I drill down on that. That's what I enjoy writing about Superman. What is it like to be the last of your kind, and you experience things that no one could possibly relate to, even Wonder Woman, even Batman, even your closest friends. They can't see the world like you do. Absolutely. What is that like? What is that like to live in that world where you are at once universally loved, but at the same time completely alone?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my answer.
Yes. So, Locke Frank Howard asks, you've been writing since the 80s. An achievement is such an achievement to stay in the industry for that long, but you always find ways to surprise us again. How do you feel? What do you feel has made you being so successful for this many times.
No, I don't have the slightest idea. I really, it has been a lot of luck. Because there's a lot of writing, and you work with a lot of creative people. I mean, you work with tons of creative people. There's a lot of people out there who are as good as I am at writing. There's some guys out there who are better than I am that aren't getting work, and a lot of that is luck. I think that if there's anything that is, first, I just want to say first off, luck is a huge part of it. I have no ego about this. I never want to believe, oh, I've lasted 35 years because I'm a genius. I don't want that is an egomaniac's way of speaking. I think that the fact that I have done so many different disciplines in comics,
yes,
has been a key factor. That I have been, having been an editor, I understand what an editor needs.
Yes,
I like viscerally. I understand that my job as a freelancer is to solve problems for you. That's basically my job, and you understand that. So I've sat in every capacity, penciling, lettering, inking, coloring. I mean, I've done everything. And so I understand the value and what you need to do to make those things, work for an editor. So I think that's a long answer to a short question, but I think that's probably as much the answer as anything else.
Absolutely. I think your success is based on being able to reinvent yourself.
Thank you. I try. I mean, I really, you
could have been doing, Wally in other books. I mean, the guy who's turning from a teenager to an adult, the story, and I love, how much I love that. And but you've gone from, Kingdom Come is a completely different animal.
If I were writing Kingdom Come today, it would be vastly different. Exactly.
So it changes. So I think it's the reinvention, your capacity to see. This is where the point where I'm now.
Right.
To keep working on this, I have to go. And I won't say to the next level because I don't think it's the next level. I think it's go to find a different, not losing my voice.
Right. No,
finding a way to go to open new nuances of it, if you know what I mean.
I totally know what you mean. I think, and I make an effort to do that. I mean, it just, if you don't make an effort to do that, that's how you become, a guy who can't get hired, because you're still doing comics from the teens. You're still doing comics from the 2000s. I think that's a good observation. And like you said, I think that if I were writing stuff from, the Kingdom Come or whatever, it would just be, I can't explain how it's off the top of my head, but it would be vastly different. Created to be cynical characters, and that's fine. I can't bring that to the table. This is who I am, and so not everything has to be cheery, optimistic. I mean, I wrote Empire, for God's sake, and I've written horror stories, and I've written dark stuff, but still, there's some sense of hope and optimism I'd like to think in everything I write.
Yes. So Borja asks if you have. Well, let me find it because again, blah 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 blah.
Sure.
Blah 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 blah. Yes. So Mark, what kind of meal do you like? Are you cooking something these days?
Cooking is for the weak. I eat out all the time. I have a hard time cooking because if it takes longer to cook than it does to eat, I've lost interest. So I have no good answer here. I have a meal delivery service that sends me like 14 meals a week, and I just put them in the microwave and I'm done. That's it. I don't know about you. It's an interesting COVID side reaction to all this. I don't know about you, but for some reason my clothes are getting smaller. Do you find that seems the problem?
Yeah. No, this one used to be, this used to be here, and this used to be, a lot. It's getting tired. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if it's the beer or the, the delivery or something like that. I don't know, but it's something. So, Locke from Howard says, for him, continuing what we were saying about your writing in the 90s, says you were one of the ones that brought back the light to superheroes. All the grittiness that had happened after not their fault, but after Frank did
Sure.
Dark Knight and Alan did Watchmen, etc. So do you feel you were one of the ones consciously, and the consciously part is I added it, not his question.
Right.
It was a conscious decision for you to say, we've had enough darkness, grittiness.
Yeah.
We need to go back to the light because they're, sorry my cursing, but these are fucking superheroes. So we
Right.
should be,
If
like
if you can fly, I don't care about your problems. If you can shatter the time barrier, if you can swing from webs from building to building, I care about your problems, but I don't really think of you as grim and gritty. You can fly. It was less me saying I want comics to be like they were when I was a kid. That wasn't it at all.
Yeah.
It was more that, like you said, they're superheroes, and comics are not about rules. They're about flying.
Yeah.
And secondly, I just wanted to go against the grain. I mean, everything was grim and gritty. Everything was dark and murky in that late 80s, early 90s era. And I would not have been able to do it without Brian Augustine. I would not have been able to do it without my editor and one of my best friends, who backed me 100%. When we started doing Flash, the editors and the executives at DC were like, what is this? We don't understand this. We don't like this. This book will be canceled in 6 months. And we proved them wrong.
Absolutely. And what's Brian doing these days?
Brian's still freelancing here and there. He's in Arizona. And I check in with him from time to time, and I'm sure he would send his best.
Oh, send them back for me. Okay, last questions because I know you need to leave. Let me see if there's somebody asking something. Blah 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 blah. No, ignoring. Okay, so what's your favorite movie director and why?
Good question. Let me think. Movie director. All right, I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound like a cheap answer, and it's going to sound like the kind of thing you're expected to say, but I mean it with all my heart. My favorite director is Orson Welles. Even though he's dead and hasn't directed a movie for 50 years, I still look at Citizen Kane. I still look at The Magnificent Ambersons. I'm able to look at them through the viewpoint of watching what he's inventing that has been used since then. People who don't understand film history, particularly, they look at these older movies like his, and they don't, because they're so used to the techniques that were invented there, they don't understand how revolutionary that stuff was. And I mean, Orson Welles was the first guy to film movies where there were ceilings in rooms, because nobody was doing that until then. You just didn't do that. They couldn't figure out how to do it. It was little things like that sound so simple because we take them completely for granted now. But watching him break ground, watching him through the lens of 1938, watching him go, that fascinates me. And
go.
No, I was going to say that's it. That's all.
My answer to that is I have to agree with Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Because every time somebody asks him who's the best director ever, he said, "There's John Ford, and then there's the rest of us."
Yeah, sure, yes.
And I agree with him. I think John Ford is the best. And last question,
sure.
Favorite musician or band? You can speak more than one. I know this is difficult.
I know. The reason I always flinch when I answer this question is because there's so little pop music that I listen to right now that I really enjoy. But I am fond of Lizzo right now. I think that, and Donald Glover, what he's doing,
it doesn't have to be now. I mean, like your old
all time.
Favorite. Yeah, of course. Hey, I let you slide with Orson Welles, so like we can stay with music,
right? So we got to go to Elvis, then we got to go to Elvis Presley.
Wow.
Well, there's a connection there.
I was gonna say Beatles for you, but okay.
No, actually, you know what? I love the Beatles. I respect the Beatles. I have nothing but joy when it comes to the Beatles. But I've heard enough Beatles. Like, I feel like if I never heard another Beatles song in my life, I'd be okay.
Yes.
Same with the Beat. I reached that with the Beach Boys like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, again, love them, respect them. They're awesome, but I'm out. But Elvis, I mean, my first conscious memory in this world is watching that 1968 comeback special when I was a kid, and I was in Tupelo. I mean, my grandparents lived in Tupelo. I spent most of my time in Tupelo as a kid. I still think of that as my hometown, really. And sitting there and watching this other kid from Tupelo who believed in himself and made something out of his life, that spoke to me. Like, that's okay. If he can do it, then maybe I can do it too.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. I was gonna say same thing about the Beatles, but I can't keep listening all like 20 times a year to George Harrison's All Things Must Pass.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Fair
think
enough.
that's
Yes.
the best album anybody did after the Beatles, like better than any George, but any John or
Yep.
Paul.
I agree.
And with that really nice note, guys, I could keep talking to Mark like forever, but he has to leave, as he told us. So we are going to leave it in there. First, I'm going to cut the feed, then I say proper goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. On Monday, we are going to have Mr. J.G. Jones joining us. Maybe Mark will come by to troll JG.
Swing by.
Okay.
Do bring me back when you can. Bring me back as soon as you can. I could do this all day.
Okay. I will do it. Thank you so much, everybody. Gracias. Hasta el lunes.